we'll call this meeting of the White Bluff Planning Commission on the 14th order. Mr. Jeff, do you call the roll, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Raymond Albert.
Present.
Linda Hayes.
Here.
Debbie Brewer.
Here.
Ernest Potts.
Here.
Anya Reed.
Here.
All right. Has everybody had time to look over the minutes of the last meeting of October 10th?
Make a motion to approve our October 10th meeting minutes.
All right, I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I second.
A second. Any comments on it? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, minutes approved. All right. Now, first on the agenda is consider the rezoning map 96.
Mr. Chairman,
Parcel.
there's some folks that wanted to speak.
Yeah.
There's some public comments.
Public comment.
Wanting to speak on, consider the rezoning of parcel 113-001, Highway 70 East. And we got 4 wants to speak on it. So Janet was first assigned.
Are you calling me? Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. If you would push your button on the speaker, that way people like me can't hear you maybe.
Janet McCardle, 484 Diane Loop. I'm a terrible speaker. So, as I understand it, that area of Highway 70 is zoned R1. My concern is that you're now going to set an R3 precedent going forward, and a future developer can then request an R3 PUD. Current zoning says that R3 is 8,000 square foot, which is 0.18 of an acre. That's less than a quarter of an acre. An R3 PUD behind the bank, pointing the wrong way, is 0.08. That is less than 1/10 of an acre. Thus far, you guys have approved rezoning based on a concept, based on plats and site plans. Now that it's built, I'm asking you to do yourself a favor and drive through that development. Don't ride behind it. Don't look and say, oh, look how close it is to the road. Drive through there. And ask yourself if that is an appropriate subdivision for a country town. I see it appropriate for urban. I see it appropriate for suburban. But we're a country town. And people moved here because it was a country town. The reason, I've watched 2 county planning commission meetings where they turned down rezoning requests. One was from April 13th of this year. Andrew, I'm going to kind of pick on you. I have a legal decision here that he talked about to the county planners. And he talked about that there are a lot of reasons for denial, that there's broad discretion. For example, this works for this property in this community, or it doesn't work. He said that community opposition can be taken into account, not as a basis for turning it down, but you can consider it. And my favorite quote is, no one has the right to be rezoned. He explained that to the county planners, and that's pretty much how I'm going to leave it. Thank you.
All right. All right, next would be Miss Ashley.
Good day, everyone. My name is Ashley Snettle, and I own, along with my husband and our 4 small children, the parcel 113.02, just the 6 acres behind the property in question for rezoning. I just wanted to share my concerns around the potential plans or ideas for this rezoning. My husband and I moved to White Bluff from Nashville, where I was born and raised, so I've seen the development of Nashville, and I know that it's a sharp growth that we're experiencing. But my concern, as Janet mentioned, was that we moved here for the purpose of being in a small town. We enjoy that. We enjoy raising our children here. We have seen the front property have a couple of twists and turns in its story, even in the short time we've been living in 5097 Highway 70. I do think that the actual location of where these potential homes or developments would occur is not practical. The topography behind the actual location is quite steep. Our property lines right up to the road. We have a small stretch that runs up to Highway 70 where our water and sewer line is laid. And the back of this potential property would really line down deep into that ravine. We have kids that run around there. So there's just a lot of concerns within our family and just the reality of trying to navigate more residents in that small space. Even coming here today, as I was pulling out of my driveway, I looked to the left, and I have a hard time seeing cars as they're coming around the curve where this entrance would be. So adding a lot more people to that spot is a concern for just being able to navigate getting in and out of our driveway. We share a permanent easement with Debbie, her name is Johnson, but I think she was a deal at one point. So I'm representing her as well. We've spoken about our concerns. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I would also really like to invite all of you to come and see the actual location. I'm happy to host anyone who wants to come tomorrow, 2 o'clock, serve you some muffins and tea, and just show you around the location and see for yourself how impractical it might actually be. So thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Knight.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I guess that's your wife, will you?
Hi.
Yeah. You're lucky to get to speak, because I was when I needed.
I'm a lucky man in a lot of ways. My name's Trevor Knight. My wife Melinda's over there. We own 5067 Highway 70, which is parcel 112. The property in question are our next door neighbors. Firstly, I want to note that we don't have any qualms with the owners of this property personally. They put a lot of work into upgrading the home that sits on the property currently, and they were victims of a bad market when it came time to sell, and now they are adjusting their strategy to try to make the property profitable, and I don't blame them at all for that. We want the upgrading of our home that we're currently doing to be a positive investment as well. However, in this particular case, the proposed rezoning and development of the property does not seem appropriate, nor is it a prudent decision for the future development of the area. The purpose and intent of the R3 zoning designation, as written in the zoning ordinance of our town, is as follows. Quote, "This district is designed to provide more flexibility in development design and to ensure a minimum standard of site development for activities located near the Highway 70 and Highway 47 intersection and within proximity to the historic downtown area of White Bluff. This area of town is more conducive to areas for high-density residential development due to less topographically challenged areas and pedestrian accessibility to local places of interest." End quote. So this vision for what R3 can and should be is clearly not applicable to this property. It lies 2.5 miles from the intersection mentioned above, which, if approved, would be the farthest for any R3 zoning this town has ever allowed. This lot is abutted by R1 properties, as Ashley mentioned, and has no pedestrian access to anywhere. Again, as Ms. Ashley mentioned, Highway 70 takes a sharp curve just to the east of the map that you've been given, and this area is already a traffic hazard as cars are routinely pulled over just in front of this property. I can see it outside my front window when it happens. Introducing potentially 15 more cars to service 8 more units which enter and exit right onto the highway at this location does not sound wise. I'm well aware, as most of us are, that public opposition cannot be the only reason that a change is denied, but it can certainly be considered. So my family, and I'm assuming the Smedel family and Miss Debbie's family, who would be in daily contact with any proposed development, love our properties exactly because they are not high density, and that was a huge reason why we acquired them in the first place. Having a home directly next to townhomes, in our case, or in the case of the Smedels, behind 8 units of townhomes, could significantly hurt the value of our properties. And I want to zoom out one additional layer to consider the zoning ordinance as a whole that kind of governs all these changes, which has some explicitly expressed purposes, which are, in summary, enhancing character and stability, promoting orderly and beneficial development, preventing overcrowding, conserving land value, minimizing traffic hazards, preventing undue concentration, providing adequate light, air, sanitation, and privacy, reducing hazards of fire and flood, assisting in the provision of services, encouraging the most appropriate use of land, and enhancing the amenities of White Bluff. That's all of them. I didn't leave any of them out. I think a strong argument can be made that this rezoning request meets none of these standards, and in fact goes directly against nearly all of them. Most importantly, if this change is approved, like Ms. Janet mentioned, it sets a dangerous precedent because if this lot, which is abutted entirely by low-density residential and rests almost 3 miles from downtown White Bluff, can be rezoned to R3, which parcels anywhere near Highway 70 cannot. Do we want all land near the highway to eventually be townhomes? Because that's the course that we're beginning to chart here. And if we're honest, I think it's relatively obvious that townhomes on this particular parcel don't make a lot of sense. As neighbors and residents of this community, we're sharing with you our perspectives. We humbly ask you to consider them. This request may serve to benefit one resident while directly infringing upon the preferences, safety, and property values of several others. In my personal opinion, such a decision would be relatively short-sighted considering all the factors involved. Thank you for your service to our town and for your time.
Ed, do you want to speak too?
No, sir. I think you covered it.
All right. Now then. We're up to consideration of rezoning of map 096, parcel 137, 1228 Tylertown Road from R1 low density to R2 medium density. Have somebody speak for that. All right. No one here to speak for that, so Miss Amanda is not here today, right?
She is not here today.
All right. Anybody got any comments, any thing on the Tylertown Road rezoning?
I did want to ask one question. Okay, if it rezoned for another single home, it could not become a duplex or something, or a triplex. It had to just be one single home.
So, let me try to understand your question. So they're requesting to be rezoned to R2. There's no restrictions on that. They would be able to develop the property under the standards of R2, period. Now, as was pointed out in the work session, this is an odd lot, so they're going to be limited topographically, and I think what Amanda was getting at on Thursday is that because the building envelope would be so small, that's going to limit them naturally, but we would not be able to, at this point, directly limit all the uses under R2 would be available to them if they could get it to work in the lot. We don't know that yet. They haven't come in with a plat or anything. This is just a rezoning to R2.
Okay.
I'm still learning.
Anyone have anything else on comments on it?
But it can, I mean, and I think what Debbie's kind of asking is, there's not going to be a multitude of buildings stuck in there, in that space. It would just be the way I understood it, they want to build another structure, and that was pretty much all they could get on it for that.
True, however, I mean, and I think
Yeah.
all you're looking at today is the rezone.
Right.
Yeah. You're effectively asking, what's the maximum use for the property?
Yeah.
Whatever they could fit on there.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm not gonna say definitively, because until I see a plat and the setbacks and all of that, we're not gonna know. But it is an odd lot. They are going to naturally probably be pretty limited with what they can do, but if you approve, well, it'd be the council that approves, the R2, whatever y'all recommend, they'll take up, but they would have all available uses under R2. Knowing that, I mean, Amanda wanted to point out that it is an odd lot and that they could not ask for a variance because they created the issue. They can't come back and say, hey, can we do whatever because the building envelope is so small. The answer, we won't even let that happen because they created it. They asked for this R2. They didn't inherit something from the past. So,
that's kind of what I was getting at.
yeah. They're not going to be able to deviate. Okay. The standards will stay in place. And again, this is a recommendation up or down by this body, and no matter what, it goes up to the council.
Okay, anybody else? Comments? Questions or answers? All right. Everybody have their opinion on that one. Can I hear a motion one way or the other?
Make a motion to rezone from R1 to R2.
Have a motion to rezone from R1 to R2. Did I hear a second?
I second.
And a second. Any comments you made? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. We'll send it over to the council then. Okay. Next one is, consider the rezoning of map 096, parcel 113.01, 5101, Highway 70 East from R1 low density to R3 high density. Mr. Joseph, if you would like to speak on
The
that.
owner's not here, but I'm Steve Harrell with Excel Land Surveying.
Would you please step forward, please, sir?
How you doing, sir?
Fine.
Didn't know there'd be opposition on a small development, but the only recourse to this landowner is to rezone this property to be able to do something different than it's already there, being the size and limited road frontage. So if the landowner wants to do something to make the property a different use of residential, he's going to have to rezone it. There's no other avenue to rezone the property. And based on my knowledge and experience, when you're in these city settings like this and you've got these corridors, that this is where the densify takes place, is in cities. You know, when you get into some of the county settings, that's not the rule of thumb that everybody agrees with. But I don't know if there's any other questions on.
Anybody have any questions, why?
I've got several concerns, and like the fact that it does drop right off. That to me is like it's a hazard.
Well, that'll be on the responsibility of the developer. They're just requesting rezoning. This is a preliminary view of what the owner would like to do. Not always necessarily what they're going to get to do, because you're limited to what the property's going to cost to develop. So.
Right, and I understand that. I understand that. I'm just saying, in my mind, even if that's not what he does, it's a concern to me because it does drop straight down. And I know it's all what ifs and if ands right now, if more homes other than one, you know, if it was 8 townhomes put on it, it just feels like a hazard, a safety hazard.
Okay, anybody more comments, questions?
Well, I go back to the thing, not speaking for or against, but are those things that legally we've got the right to turn something down? Or, I mean, if someone lives in that home now, you still, if someone lives in that home now, you've got those hazards right now.
So if you add 30 people to it.
So you've got the hazards then for 30 people, but is that I'm talking about legally, people. Is that illegal? Because he has to defend whatever we do, is the reason I'm asking this question.
So, kind of getting into the preview of what we're going to get into on Friday, of rezoning best practices, but any concern espoused by ultimately the council, but ideally the governing body will look to some of the reasons espoused by a planning commission for or against a rezoning request. Things that are factual, things that are present on the property, as well as looking to even, again, we talked about this with the traffic assessments that'll go in place eventually, the maximum use of the property. You are allowed to consider all of those things and say this is appropriate for this area of town. It's on a highway. It's, the developer or the owner is requesting this to be able to add more units on it. You can determine if that's appropriate or not appropriate. There is an element of judgment to it. It can't be based upon pure opinion. I recommend against that. And again, a little bit of a preview of Friday. A zoning ordinance change is a law. It is a law that would go up to the council for this jurisdiction. And any law has to be able to withstand the scrutiny of a rational basis test. You need something of why you passed a law. Public safety, if you want to reduce the speed limit, whatever it may be. And in this case, it's a matter of, there's so much that you can look at positive or negative with any rezoning. And I don't want to delve too deep on that. We could certainly talk offline about that. But if you think it's too dense or not dense enough, if you have safety concerns, if you're worried about the topography of the site, those are all factual things that are in your discretion to say, that's a big factor for me, I don't like this, or that's not a big factor, and yeah, the developer is going to have to deal with it, and we'll look at whatever plat they come back in with. Because we are, again, as Jeff pointed out earlier, we're at the rezoning stage. We're not looking at a plat yet. They could rezone it and sit on it for 20 years. They could come in with a plat the day after it gets rezoned. We don't know, and I think we have to take all of those into account. But as long as you have a rational basis for the decision, and really it's not even this body, I want this body to fully say whatever you want to say about a rezoning request. It's up really to the council to state a rational basis for the approval or denial of a rezoning typically, and that happens in the discussion. So I don't know if that answered the question fully, but things that are based in fact are usually the most defensible things. On the other end of the spectrum, I don't like the owner,
Right.
so I'm going to deny this. That is a bad reason. So, I prefer you to list towards what's actually there and stay away from opinions as best you can. But that gets intertwined.
Do you have any knowledge of how the road access is going to be to Highway 70?
No, if this was to come to design, that there would be one driveway added to Highway 70. The same thing if this property was to be rezoned, whether it's rezoned for a second structure or 8 townhomes, it's still, townhomes has one driveway, but another house has 2 driveways. So it's, or you do an easement. It's regardless of the property as it exists. If it's not rezoned, this landowner can't build a second home. or build, or do anything to this property, besides renovate the structure that's there and resell it.
Can I ask you a question? Elizabeth, I think you had said, okay, the owner can't do anything because he can't make a big profit off the property that the house sits now, the house and everything. He sold it and he bought it and fixed it up and went to sell it and it was a bad market.
I don't know any of those facts. I think that was from public comments.
Oh.
I don't think anybody with the town knows what they spent on it or anything like that. We know that there's a lot with the house on there right now.
Well, he said that, sorry. This gentleman at the microphone.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
I didn't say any of
Well,
that.
you said that they were.
No, I didn't say anything about any purchasing or price or, I said if they want the property to benefit them,
Right.
they would like to build a second structure.
Yes.
If it's not rezoned, you've got a structure there, you renovate it and resell it. But the landowner that purchased the property would like to do something to increase the value of the property, which will increase the value of other properties surrounding it.
So right now, there's one house and one lot, and that's what you're looking at. And obviously, if you chose to recommend rezoning and the council were to rezone it, they could put more structures on there. And that's a could, likely, but we don't know for sure. They could put more structures on there.
I think the question about the, we was asked to do the concept of what could go on this property. Is that gonna become a standard where, because the landowner's just requesting a rezone, whether he builds two houses or builds a townhomes, it doesn't matter at this stage, right? So it's gonna come in a preliminary design and a lot of
The
things.
body's going to take into account the maximum use. This, I think, was used as just, it's nice to have the illustration.
Yeah.
You were not required to submit it.
That's right, we did.
Just asked.
Yeah, and we probably shouldn't have submitted this because we don't know that this will even come. It's a speculation based on design that may not even come to truth. It's just one of those things, somebody would like to do that, but when it comes down to brass tacks, it's not conceivable.
And not to put you on the spot, and if you haven't done this analysis, that's fine, but getting back to maximum use. The frontage is 107 feet, am I looking at that correctly?
Yeah, I believe that's
So, and I'm not a planner, but I see enough of these. I'm assuming the maximum number of lots for this without a variance would be 2.
That's right, that's correct. So
Because you only have the 107 and the minimum lot width is 50.
and square footage comes into play. There's all kind of criteria that comes into play with a lot shaped like this. So it's
Right. It's not a perfect.
It's not a perfect lot. It's trying to make something better, I guess, as a developer.
Okay. Anyone else have any more comments on it? Well, I'll entertain a motion one way or the other.
This goes up next, the rezoning goes up to the council, right?
Right.
To be approved, final
Yeah.
approval.
Yeah, we can't do nothing but recommend to the
All we
council.
can do is recommend.
And no matter what you recommend, it's gonna go up to council.
Yeah, and then they can make the final decision. Okay, so I'm gonna recommend that we approve the rezoning to R3, recommend it on up to the council. I think
All
there's
right, I
more
have a
like,
motion to, approve the recommendation to R1 to R3. Do I hear a second?
I will second.
I have a second. All right, any more comments?
and would you keep the comments down from the audience, please?
Now, ladies and gentlemen, after public comments, please don't shout things from the audience. All right, Mr. Chairman, you have a first and a second, and I guess you can ask for additional discussion or a vote.
Okay.
And this is just, even though we're voting one way or the, whatever we do, it's going to the council one way or the other.
Correct.
So,
Right.
no matter
There'll
what
be
we say
two
or
readings and a
anything else,
public hearing.
the council has the final say.
Yes.
With a public hearing.
All right, any more comments? All right, all in favor say aye. All opposed?
No. I'm gonna
Okay,
abstain
good.
at the moment.
We got 2 for, 2 against. I'm gonna have to say I'm for it to go to the public, to the city council.
I wasn't
So
there,
it'll
so I
pass.
abstained.
She abstained, so you had one.
No,
Okay,
you had
good.
to abstain.
I'm sorry.
If I may, just, is there a reason for the abstention?
Well, in my mind, I'm still trying to work it out in my mind about the entire safety issue. And that's the only reason I'm abstaining. As far as the number, if it wasn't for that, it would probably be a great location in my mind, as far as that goes. But,
Well, yeah, highway or driveway entering into a state highway, don't it have to have state-approved
Yes.
safety measures?
Yeah.
The state will have to,
The TDOT has to approve any connection to a state highway, but that's the connection for the driveway. The only reason I bring it up, and I'm not trying to pick on you too
no,
much.
that's okay.
Unless you have some conflict, I always request that you do vote, unless there's some reason. You don't have an ownership interest in this property.
Well, no.
So, and that would be a reason to abstain. I mean, I'm just saying that.
No, I get it, and that's the only, and I'll vote one way or the other if you want me to.
And you're not
Because I
locked
know
in.
that it's going to the council regardless of what I
Correct.
say.
So,
I can change my abstention to yes, just so it'll get to them, but at that level, then I can make my, statements.
so I think we have a clarification, Mr. Chairman, 4-1 vote.
okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Sir.
Now, we're moving on to consideration of 70 Church Street design review. Yes, sir. Would you have any more comments on that?
This hasn't changed since Thursday, has it?
All right.
I'm gonna make a
I have
motion to
any-
approve the design review for 70th Church.
Have any comments on the review of 70 Church Street?
You have a motion, Mr. Chair.
I do have a motion already?
I made a motion to approve the design review
Okay.
because it hasn't changed.
All right, now hear a second.
I second.
All right, any more comments made on that?
And just for clarity, Mr. Chairman, Jeff, all of Amanda's comments, there was nothing outstanding, we're good, right?
Everything is done, yes.
Don't let me interrupt.
All right. Anyone have anything else? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Looks like it's review done there. All right, it's not on here, but I would like to remind everybody that Saturday morning from 8 to 12,
Friday
the
morning.
Bluff Center is the training section.
Friday morning.
Friday morning.
It ain't Saturday.
Sorry.
The last page of your packet.
And we're having breakfast too. All that to do, yeah. From 8 to 12, long time. Without some. What? I didn't know. Oh, okay. I went down and I'm like, what? Okay.
It's
Yeah.
Y'all want me to make a motion to adjourn?
Donnie made a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All right, have a motion, second to adjourn. All right, all in favor, say aye.